Hello and welcome to another episode of The People's Law. My name is Sarah Mpeseni and I am your host. Now, one of the laws that has brought a lot of contention, misunderstandings, speculation are the newly introduced cyber laws. We've heard statements like, "I don't have a lawyer," when people are trying to comment on trending issues more than once, and it seems to have brought a lot of fear. And this fear is stemming from a place of not knowing exactly what the law says or what it means or how it can affect you should you express your freedom of expression. So to understand and delve into these laws, we've got two representatives from the Law Association of Zambia that are going to help us understand what our rights and responsibilities with regards to the new cyber laws are. We've got Counsel Yoram Mwambazi. Welcome to the show, Counsel.
Thank you, Sarah.
And we've got Counsel Bruce Hatimbola. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's good to have you.
It's good to be here.
Now, there's been a lot of speculation about these laws and what they actually mean. I'll start with you, Counsel Bruce. Maybe you can just walk us through an overview of what the cyber laws are.
Okay. Historically, the cyber laws have come from a place where they were first seen on the in Zambia in 2004 through the Computer Misuse Crimes Act, and that has been evolving up to where we are right now with the Cyber Security and the Cyber Crimes Act. So they've been evolving with time, seeing the use, the nature of the gadgets, the nature of technology that's being employed within the Zambian jurisdiction, and that has been evolving up to where we are.
And Counsel Yoram, what are the pieces of legislation that are governing the cyber laws currently?
So currently we have the newly enacted Act number 4 of 2025. I'm sure that's a piece of legislation you're referring to when you talk about public uproar and misunderstanding surrounding this piece of legislation. But this is a piece of legislation that is coming from the 2021 Act number 2 of Cyber Crimes Act. We have the current law trying to refine and to widen the scope in the use of these laws in order to curb the common trends through social media and other aspects.
So, Counsel Bruce, what constitutes a cybercrime? There's been a lot of speculation about this, and most people are now afraid of saying anything or commenting on trending issues, or even so much as disagreeing with opinions of others online because they will think that they will get into trouble with the cyber laws. So what constitutes a cyber crime?
So a good reading of the Act from about sections 3 to 25 will list a number of activities that will amount to a crime. So they are very specific, and some of them will involve harassment. There's what is being termed as cyber terrorism. There are quite a number of acts that are listed there. And I think this is also an opportunity to implore the public to actually look through and know, because, there are comments like, "I'm not going to say anything because I don't have
a lawyer." Yes.
Well, it's not everything that's a crime. So there are matters of public importance which one can speak to, so long as the facts are truthful and they are not falling within the ambit of what is listed between sections 3 and 25 of the Cyber Crimes Act.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe you could just mention maybe 2 or 3 of what those specific acts are that would constitute a cyber crime.
Okay. There's online harassment, for instance. Okay. There's also unlawful access to information.
What is considered online harassment before we go to unlawful access to information?
So there are different thresholds subject to circumstances, but as it is spelled out in the Act, these are acts of individuals that seem to provoke another, that may not be true, and are just leading to embarrass another person. So they'll be very subjective as per situation, But in a nutshell, that's what harassment will amount to. Yeah.
And the others?
There's also unlawful access to information, where someone illegally, in loose terms, someone hacks into someone's phone, gets personal data or information. That too amounts to a crime. There's also acts of cutting off the communications of the communication services of an important nature by someone, maliciously doing so. Those are also acts considered as cyber crimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Councillor, maybe a few from you as well, some of the acts that would be considered as cyber crimes, so that the public knows what it actually means, as opposed to the speculation that's been going on online.
So the law, Sarah has outlined quite a number of activities that amount to, cybercrime. You remember we are talking about crimes that are, committed through activities in the simulated environment, in corners or in hidden places. But these are activities that include unlawful interception of data. Okay, data transmission could be from a company to an individual or between individuals. You intercept that data and probably trying to use that data for your personal gain. Probably that too amounts to crime according to the act. Then we also have identity theft. These are not so common, but these are happen behind closed doors, where someone will use, Sarah, your information. When we say identity, we're not referring specifically to you as an individual or your image, but may get your information and pretend to be you and present that information to, for instance, the bank or any other person for their personal gain. That is a crime. There are a number of crimes that are listed there now. The common ones are things like pornographic, production, involving children in production of pornographic materials. Those two are listed in the Cybercrimes Act number 2020, number 4 of 2025, and they amount to a crime.
Now, one of the most common references to cybercrime or fears or reservations is with regards to expressing opinion, whether it is on someone's post or on a trending matter. Does that in itself constitute a crime?
That answer, that question, Sarah, may be answered in yes or no scenario, depending with the circumstances. It may amount to a crime when the purpose of the objective of your post is to intimidate someone, to threaten, to harass, or to manipulate. Such things are the objectives that the Cybercrimes Act is trying to curb. So that very nature, by that very ill intent, it leads to a crime. However, where the post is an innocent, post, to compliment, for instance, or to put out the truth, where what is being said has no malice in it. It's a truth that cannot amount to a crime. And therefore, when colleagues or when members of the public are making a comment, and of course referring to whether they have a lawyer or not, they are looking at whether what they are saying is malicious or what they are saying is a bare truth, because where you are saying the truth, you are justified.
Lawyers have become very famous in this era of cybercrime because we're constantly making reference to them and our needs to have them before we can express our opinion. So you're still watching The People's Law with me, Sarah Mpiseni. We're going to take a short break, and when we are back, we continue with cyber law. Welcome back. You are still watching The People's Law, and today we're discussing cyber laws and how It applies to us and our online interactions as well as our digital lives. Now, Council Yoram, maybe you could just help us understand what government institutions are responsible, government bodies or institutions are responsible for cyber crimes. Where can someone go if they feel aggrieved online or if they feel attacked?
The first point of contact, Sarah, is when one is aggrieved with activities from or arising from the use of cyberspace. The point of contact is the police station. One who feels intimidated, threatened, who feels harassed, who feels bullied, or anything that concerns their data has been intercepted or misused, can go to a police station nearby and make such complaint. The police, working with other law enforcement agencies, they will investigate the matter. Of course, now we working in cooperation with ZICTA. They will investigate especially if the transaction or the complaint is electronic in nature. That may require a technical expert in order to find, the real person behind it.
Can someone be arrested for a post? Can they post on Facebook or Twitter or any of these social media platforms?
Absolutely. They can. And this is highly dependent on the nature of that particular posting. Like earlier mentioned, the Cyber Crimes Act does spell out circumstances, ingredients for particular what will amount to a crime and what doesn't. And it even spells out, what fits in as a punitive measure. Is it a fine? Is it jail time or both? Yeah, so someone could definitely get time for what they post, what they share, and what they block from sharing, and how they interact with others online.
Councillor Yoram, what are the limits of freedom of speech when it comes to social media expressions? And also, how far can someone go in criticizing either politics or government without it constituting a crime according to the cyber laws?
That's an interesting question, Sarah. Really, to what extent can someone, use, social media space without interfering with the rights of other people? Remember, the Constitution of the Republic of Zambia provides and it confers rights to every individual. Every Zambian has particular rights, such as right to protection, freedom of expression. So all these means that while we have our own rights of expression, we also have duties to ensure that we do not cross our rights into, to begin to infringe on other people's rights. Because others have said, where your nose ends, that's where another person's rights starts. So you have to ensure that you're within the confines of the law while you express yourself. Now, turning to the other question, to what extent can we criticize the government, or is it in a political space? Well, we have the right of expression, but this right should be exercised, should be enjoyed, cautiously and, dutifully, knowing that we owe a duty to other people as well. We cannot go on rampage, for instance, infringing on other people's rights. Therefore, the government and all other institutions can be criticized. It's our human freedom, of expression, where you are not satisfied. However, you must do so responsibly. While you criticize, you cannot, for instance, criticize while insulting, while demeaning other people, while maligning people through falsehoods and other activities that are likely to harm or bring the reputation of such people down. So the very fact that you step beyond the boundaries of your rights, begins to create other offenses such as defamation. Okay, there may be defamation from the criminal side or from the civil side, where you can be sued or reported to police for defamation of character. So these are some of the boundaries that we ought to look out for while we express our opinions, while we express our views on political parties, on governments, or indeed individuals like yourself, Sarah. You have the right of privacy, and therefore, when one begins to criticize you for your opinion or whatever reason, they must do so knowing that you also enjoy certain rights.
Okay, so now before I come to you, Council Bruce, Council Yoram, is every offense relating to social media a crime? Or could some of them be considered civil offenses?
So there are a couple of offenses that have been criminalized. And in reference, we have a number of acts, including the cybercrime, the recent cybercrime, that spell out these acts. However, there is still a number of civil suits that may be commenced against you when you, for instance, maliciously choose to defame someone. Okay, so there is defamation of character. It's still a law, and one can be sued on from the subordinate court or the high court in order for you to compensate them for maliciously posting something that is demeaning in nature. So that still suffices that we still have defamation of character as a measure to stop people from maliciously maligning or maliciously causing the reputation of other people to in disrepute.
You're still watching The People's Law, the program that helps you understand the laws of Zambia and how they apply to you. Today we're discussing cyber laws, and when we come back, we understand more how sexually provocative content can get you into trouble if posted online. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You are still watching The People's Law, and today we are talking everything cyber crimes. Now, Council Bruce, one of the ways that we have seen the cyber laws flying into action is through sexually explicit content that's been shared online. We've seen people get arrested. So what are some of the consequences of people posting such content online, whether it's sexual content or even violent content?
Okay. Allow me to firstly mention that this topic is actually a blend of a number of laws. And this blend will span from what is regarded as cultural norms that have become law now, and also what has been legislated. So not only the Cyber Crimes Act is what is in contention here, but there's a penal code, there's at common law, there's defamation of character, which is a very common one we've seen in Zambia. Yeah. And as my brother earlier mentioned, these will be separated. They'll either be civil or criminal. And those will carry with them different remedies, which remedies could amount to jail time. I know for those that closely follow these cases, there has been a famous defamation case now in Zambia of Gregory Chifire, where it was properly broken down to say there is what is known as criminal defamation and there is what is known as civil defamation, where if I feel aggrieved by you, I could approach you, tell you this is what you've done to me, and I'm seeking that you remedy me in some way, whether it's through an apology or payment of a fine. And let me be quick to mention that before we even go to court, the courts are also highly promoting alternative dispute resolution. It is okay, sir, for me to be approached by another member of the public and be asked, my friend, you have wronged me. Can we sit down at the table of reason and see how best we can remedy that wrong without or before we actually seek to go to court? Why this is important is because already the court systems in Zambia are backlogged, okay? And sometimes there is things that can be sorted through common understanding. And alternative dispute resolution has been seen to be a good means via which certain things can be sorted. So there are punishments spanning from about 2 years all the way up to 25 years for acts such as child pornography, for sharing and transmitting explicit stuff. I know there are policies that govern even under institutions that are in the industry like telecommunications, where aspects of sharing online, even with someone you're intimate with, those issues could lead to criminal offenses for which someone could be found liable. So members of the public should tread carefully as they deal with one another.
So it's not, the offense would not just be in being the perpetrator of the crime, but in also sharing it.
That absolutely. You sharing such kind of information also amounts to a crime.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Councillor, I'm speaking about institution. Does the Zambian law guarantee data protection? And do institutions such as telecommunications companies or even the government itself, do they have the right to collect data and store it? Personal data that is actually collected through social media platforms.
Yes, Sarah. As earlier alluded to, while our laws are still evolving, we are still in our infancy in laws relating to, data as well as cyber space. We recently enacted Data Protection Act. So this is for purposes of trying to protect every information that is given to institutions or individuals for purposes of particular objectives, and that information must be guaranteed that it will only be used according to the purpose for which it has been obtained.
So social media platforms are required to comply with this data protection law.
So of course, social media users, we have recent trends like content creators, whether they obtain information or not. We also have to look at how they use the information that comes into their space. We have to be guaranteed that while we release this information will specifically be used for the purpose for which it has been obtained.
Now, Council Bruce, are law enforcement agencies at liberty to monitor private chats without a warrant? Because I think there's generally that fear that, all your conversations, you're having a personal conversation with your friend, that they're monitoring and listening to everything. Is that what is actually obtaining, or can that only happen if there is a warrant?
Sarah, I'll begin with the historical fact without digging into much information. I know there has been online publications where it's been stated that there is certain laws that have been enacted that seem to breach that right of privacy that individuals have, especially regards their gadgets and whatnot. But Section 18 of the Cybersecurity Act places a threshold. This observation can be done by law enforcement agencies without a warrant, only if the threshold set out in Section 18 are met. And this threshold is a two-tier threshold, which means that if significant harm, if during the investigations or find out that there is significant harm that is about to be done, that can be done, and interception could be done by law enforcement agencies. Secondly, if that disruption or if the behavior of a particular entity or person will actually disrupt an essential service that is being provided. And also, just speaking to data protection, Sarah, it would be of interest to the public to know that for personal data such as know your client, KYC for banks, for MNOs, MMOs, all these that collect personal information from people. Regulations have since been enacted. We have Act number 3 of 2021 now that is fully fledged and in force, which is the Data Protection Act, and the data and the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner has also been fully fledged. What this means to individuals and entities is that there is need now to comply with that particular law. And in complying with that law, they would have to register depending on what they're doing with that data, either as a data controller or as a data processor. And failure to do so carries its own penalties at law. So I thought that's just very important for us to understand, because there's a standard now that the law holds for individuals or entities that are actually dealing with personal information of others.
Well, you're still watching The People's Law, and today we're discussing cyber laws and how they relate with you and your daily interactions with these laws as you navigate your media presence and your media life. For now, we go to the public and find out just how much is known about these cyber laws. We'll be back shortly. Kennedy, muziwako chani pali ma cyber laws?
Ma cyber laws, nimamvera chabati cyber laws, but I know nothing. Kulibe. How? Sure.
ama cyber laws timamvera ati ukagwira foni ya mkazi wako chani ni mlandu manje, so timakangoshe kushanderstand kuti why vinabwera for the first time Zambia vaso ndafika kuchitika apa.
Okay, Miss Memory, what do you know about the new cyber laws and what they say?
For me, what I know about the new cyber laws is that these are laws that were put to protect the digital space. Yes.
You know any specific law under the cyber law?
That I cannot actually mention the specific laws because I feel we are not well informed about them.
Sandra Mbeo, muziwapo chani pali ma cyber law?
Okay, ma cyber law ni vambiri vamene niziwapo, like more of security, of your well-being, and respect for other people as well as respect for the public. Because for me, what I know, some of the people, they take the cyber law into their own hands, trying to impress other people out there, thinking of foolish things and then sending them on social media like that. Some are using the cyber law to trick other people, to steal money from them. So I think cyber law to me is something which you can use to do something which will benefit you or something which will help others.
Welcome back. We had some very interesting views from the public on their understanding of the cyber laws and how they apply to them. You're still watching The People's Law, and with us, we are still discussing the cyber laws with lawyers from the Law Association of Zambia. Now, Councillor Yoram, maybe you can help us understand, are there any age restrictions with regards to the people, the young people that can join social media platforms? And can young people also, minors, be charged under the Cyber Laws Act?
Thank you. So on age restriction, there are no specific age restrictions. However, it is advisable that only at a particular age, when someone begins to understand the nature of the activities in the cyberspace, that one may be allowed. What may be interesting to the members of the public is that certain applications, through the tech providers, these technological development applications themselves, they provide age restrictions. So whether this should be codified in our laws or not, that would be a topic for another day. However, we need, as guardians or parents, to regulate how minors utilize the cyberspace to avoid some content that may be harmful, not only to those they post to, but also to themselves, as certain content may not be in the right form, to be shared among the minors. So it is important that we have certain regulations in our homes on how these children have access to social media space.
Okay. Councillor Bruce, there have been a lot of incidences of cyber theft. It's not just an issue of expressing opinions and people feeling like they need lawyers to say whatever they feel like they need to comment. A lot of people have had their money stolen, and through basically cyber means. So is it the responsibility of banks and mobile money operators to reimburse these victims for cyber theft?
Well, Sarah, I will begin by saying, as a society in total, we all are responsible for making sure that, one, we safeguard the rights and needs and security of another person, and that when such need or security is breached, we are held liable. So circumstances will differ according to what will happen. It will be very subjective. But an onus cannot and is not placed solely on the mobile money providers to say, when this happens, one is liable for reimbursement. So circumstances will be very subjective. There will be instances where it's clearly seen that a client or a customer was careless with the manner in which he maybe gave off information in a particular sense. But again, there are instances where these mobile money providers actually are found wanting, negligently so, because we do know that that money is held in trust on behalf of the customers. And when that is breached from their end, they are held liable by their regulators and can also be held liable by the person that has encountered such a loss. So there are circumstances, but those circumstances are very subjective.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, back to you, Councillor. Your last remarks and your advice to the public on responsible use of social media?
Thank you, Sarah. We are living in a technological world where there's so much use of cyberspace than probably the interaction that we do physically. We are still responsible for the peace of another. Okay, I remember one former Attorney General of the United States once said, the benefits or the injuries of technological development depends on how we use our fingers on the keyboard. So we are still responsible for the peace of others, okay, by avoiding harassment, by avoiding posts which are, morally corrupt, and other activities that, demonize other people. So we are called to be responsible citizens by ensuring that we do the right thing.
Your last remarks, Councillor Bruce?
My last remarks really are that not everything is placed in black and white, but we thank God for conscience and empathy and all these other nice things that we can look to. Whilst we interact on these platforms, whilst we deal with others, let us be empathetic, let us be reasonable, and deal with them in a wise manner so that we don't end up, abrogating each other's rights. Thank you.
Well, this has been The People's Law, and I hope today's episode has helped us understand better what the cyber laws actually say and how we can interact with them as we go about our digital lives. I've been your host, Sarah Mupeseni. We'll see you on the next episode.